Okay, now if we look at understanding the totality, you have the neutron, you have the proton, you have the electron. Neutron is central gravitational part, which means the system is stable. You have the second part, which is a proton, lighter. And then you have the electron, which is, in fact, uses this, if you look at it. If you notice, I have made gravitational positioning. What you can do, if you manage to push electron slightly further in or slightly further out, look, what do you know in physics? S1, S2, S3. Now that you know you can collect and condition the gravitational positioning, how you can control it, allow it, this electron can sit and have the property of the all or individually in each of the rings. So deuterium has a stable condition in the center. You have the proton as the intermediary to balance off. You can produce anything like, would you like gold or would you like copper? Would you like helium? Is the magnetosphere strength which is dictating the manifestation of the property of the element, not the entity of the proton or the entity of the electron. Coulomb's barrier is gravitational magnetic field balance. If you are a hydrogen, smaller according to the strength between the proton gravitational magnetic field and the electron or the neutron. Neutron is the center. And if you look, goes back again to the same thing. Three fields, manifestation of tangibility. If you play with deuterium, you're always the winner. If you want to work that you can make elements very quickly, you go to tritium. Because there you have a spare guy somewhere. And that spare guy, you can dictate to create the condition of the elements much faster. Because now you play these two against each other. Because birds with birds, dogs with dogs. The heavier, which is neutron, always dictates the condition. Doesn't matter how big the Saturn is, the sun is the center. In plasma physics, you go by the order of the magnitudes of the plasmatic mass. So you look into deuterium and you can build it yourself. You can make deuterium anywhere in the universe. You can do it with the 3 layers. If you understood the left, which we explained how you measure the core, you make 3 core layer, you play the deuterium, then you can create anything you like, any condition. In this environment here, in this gap, you work with megawatts. In this gap you work with megawatts. In this gap you work beyond your imagination. Don't forget, we put this thing down as what we call here a neutron, a proton and an electron. In the reality of condition, this guy is rotating itself, this one is rotating itself, this one is rotating itself, and at the same time this one is rotating around this one, while this one is rotating around this. Actually, electrons a lot of times go to the center of nucleus, exactly like meteorites do. It gets pulled in and it gets pushed out. It's part of their path. They get their energy level that they pass through the center of the nucleus sometimes too. And then you find out this chap on his own is rotating in this direction. And then you'll find out in times protons are totally opposite way rotating. It happens a lot in the deuterium. To keep the balance, proton is sandwiched in between, is forced to change direction of motion. And then these are the elements, the electrons, what they call atom structure, which the man has no understanding of yet. But you can use it for production of huge amount of energy, especially for instant transportation. You keep the gravitational field of the environment in respect to this, but you change this, then you can be anywhere instantaneously, as long as you keep your center core always fixed. This is the way we have to understand the technology. I always refer back to the tape we always used to play. We have made it so simple that we use the matter to create nanomaterials with it, with the gas, and the binding is so strong because they all have the same common denominator element. It applies the same to the plasma, because the neutron in the center of deuterium, which holds on to the proton and to the electron, must have a common denominator gravitational magnetic field. If it doesn't, it becomes a hydrogen. That's why we see hydrogen so much on this planet. Because if you look at more or less the structure of between the oxygen and the neutron, nitrogen, or if you look at the structure between the nitrogen and the carbon, the discrepancies in the amount of the energy is big enough to create a proton and electron, but not strong enough to create a neutron to get deuterium. When you confine certain gravitational magnetic field imposed on the hydrogen in a specific conditions, very, very specific condition, which can affect the gravitational magnetic field of the oxygen, you end up with heavy water. That's why heavy water is very rare and you need to hold it, to control it. It's the environmental gravitational magnetic field within the center, within the structure of the inertia, which forces the creation of deuterium. And then, on the other hand, you do the same thing for the creation of heavy water. Look at the places where heavy waters are produced. In Iran, we have a natural abundance of it. because of the structure. Because of the mountain regions and the way the gravitational field sits in the plates. And in time places you'll find deuterium you cannot find afterwards when the geological structure changes. Any other question?